Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum.
So this is the show that we wanted to do for a long time, and it will become clear why. So I just wondered if you ever thought what would happen when 3 adults with ADHD had a chat on the radio. They start well, then go off on a tangent, or 10. They speak fast and interrupt each other. They get excited and lose their train of thoughts. They forget to check the time and feel rushed. They get distracted in their head, start musing about that really interesting billboard that they saw when they were driving over to the studio. They nearly forget what on earth they're doing actually in the studio. They would look at the speaker glassy-eyed. And they certainly cannot remember a word that was said over the last 30 seconds at least.
That is so mean, it's not even funny.
And what? It's already time to say goodbye. Where has the time gone? Does this sound familiar? Well, listen up then. We are going to attempt to explore what ADHD is, especially when discovered as an adult, with our guest Maria Dowse.
And you're a female, because guys tend to get diagnosed early on when they're kids, but women do not.
Yes, exactly. So Angela, what's your take?
My take, I have a mental health condition, you think to yourself, because why do I always forget things, right? According to the Google, the NHS, and all mental health literature on the internet, if you were to input most of my behaviors, characteristics, and the way that I work into a search engine, you would be bombarded with close to 10 million results telling you that I have ADHD. It makes sense. I couldn't concentrate in school and had serious behavioral issues. My mind wanders constantly. Okay, that behavioral issue was more internal. I didn't have those. It was more inside, but my mind wanders constantly. That's true even now.
I know, and we're on the radio, but if you could see us, I'm constantly pointing back down to the sheet
to focus.
Angela, to focus back on our notes.
I get impatient regularly. I can't even sit on the sofa like in one position. I have to keep moving positions. I don't know why I can't do it. I find it difficult to stick to one task. Come and see my knitting projects and such other projects that I have. And I can't sit still for a second until the end of the day when I don't have much because my brain is so exhausted. Okay, so labels are interesting because if I'd been formally diagnosed in my teens, I know I would have used it as an opportunity to act even more. Being oblivious to my condition was actually beneficial. I find it very beneficial only because if you get labeled, then you use it as an excuse why you can't do things. And I think by fighting this, I've learned coping mechanisms. And now I know what I have, but I'm 52 this year and I'm okay, right? Mind the fact that I don't have a driving license yet. Now I understand what the problem is, but I'm still not going to stop learning until I get that license. Sophia?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to start young, I think. The older you get, it gets a bit harder.
It's harder.
So, okay. In my 20s, the diagnosis would have caused me to play a victim, like we just said, and blame the world for making me different. And to be honest, the diagnosis now wouldn't have changed a thing. A label, although when it comes to many mental illnesses is needed and its urgency can be life-saving, it's actually necessary for a lot of people. If we are struggling with our identity and purpose, we can latch onto labels. Labels can define who we are, distort our reality, and then imprison us. If I were to ever label myself as having ADHD, it would only be so I could wear it as a badge of honor for my race car brain, helping me achieve what I have done to date. So please, if you have suffered from poor mental health, which we all have, by the way, show the world your scars. Celebrate your uniqueness. Thanks to your mental illness for teaching you courage and strength. Thank your physical condition for teaching you adaptability and resilience. Thank you for being you. Life would be boring if we were all the same. And challenges, obstacles, and adversity are imperative for growth. I have a body, but I'm not my body. I have a mind, but I'm not my mind. I am me, and that's all that matters.
Very interesting, and that was something that you found. It was like a testimony, wasn't it, from someone, a woman with ADHD, and there were a lot of things where you could recognize yourself in, and I could see some things as well. So we're going to introduce Maria Dowse now. And Maria originally trained as a primary school teacher, but never pursued it as a career. Instead, she worked in various social care settings. After being at home with the children, home educating them for 20 years, like Angela and myself, she decided to train as a counsellor, and so is currently doing a Master's of Counselling and Psychotherapy in Creative and Contemporary Approaches.
Way to go, Maria.
Well done.
Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us more about yourself? And also, obviously, we've invited you today because we had a long conversation in the car one day where we kind of explored this idea of ADHD as an adult, and how did you come about to find out about ADHD?
Wow, gosh, thank you for having me here first and foremost. And I guess what I would like to say just straight off the bat is that I can only speak about my lived experience, and my lived experience is going to be different for everybody. So I think for me, it was first floated with one of my children who had gone to school to do GCSEs, and as they were leaving school, the school said, "Oh, we think that there might be some ADHD," and I thought, oh, okay. I hadn't really thought about that myself, and they hadn't raised it with me, and so I was getting on the internet and having a look at the symptoms that they had for boys, and I thought, oh, actually, yeah, I think that might be applicable to him. How do I fit within all of this, knowing that it can be genetic as well? And I thought, no, this doesn't suit me at all, because it's very gendered often to male presentations. And I kind of put that away, didn't really think about it again for myself until I went to university, and was kind of fine within the first year, and then lockdown hit. And we all went into our homes, and I started to do this thing that I now know they call unmasking, because I didn't have to be in a social situation and I could just be myself. And when I then went back into education, back into that institutional setting of education, it was like my brain had stopped working. It was like I hit a brick wall. So the things that I felt I could do relatively well the year before, all of a sudden it was like everything had stopped working for me, and so they sent me to student services, and student services ran a test and it came back with ADHD, and yeah, I was a little bit floored, to be honest. Yeah, wasn't really expecting it.
So what was different between your son's diagnosis, like the symptoms, and yours? Like,
women tend to present with ADHD very differently, and I guess it depends on where you fit. So there are two main presentations, and that's inattentive and hyperactive of ADHD, and then there's this subdomain of combined, and so I'm what we would call combined. And so where you fit on that, the presentations are going to be different anyway. But for me, I was typical of a woman presenting with ADHD, in that I internalised a lot of my symptoms. It wasn't so much about behaviour, and we're trying to move away from it being a behavioural label and move towards it being neurodevelopmental. So most of my symptoms were internalised, that I felt that that racing mind, anxiety, depression, those really, not feeling good enough, not being able to do things, not being able to process things fast enough, maybe not as restless as the piece that you read out. I wouldn't say that I was a particularly restless person, but I certainly have tendencies to fidget and want to do things when I have to pay attention. So I think that's really where it was for me.
Really, how do you feel like you fit then, Angela? Because you also have a sort of similar-ish story to Maria. Was through your studies, wasn't it? That something was revealed?
I took it to my counselor at uni after I saw a TikTok video from someone that I followed their exercise videos, and I didn't recognize her at first. And she started saying about I have this and this, and she was talking about ADHD, and I go, hang on, that sounds like me. But because it was her, I took it serious. Like, what? I can't remember her name, but she's like well known in the fitness world in America, and that made me think, oh my God, do I have ADHD, or I'm just looking for a reason why I'm so weird, right? Because I've labeled myself like in so many ways. And then I was doing my PGC at the same time, so I did take it to a counselor, like someone at school, and they talked to me, and she thinks without doing the test I did have it, but it was already close to the end of my PGC, and the fact that it would take, by the time I did the test and I was diagnosed, it would be after I finished. I felt it wasn't gonna do anything for me, but they did give me extra support.
That's really
so what sort of things were they suggesting that helped when you were in a
So one thing that helped me was, say I had a question about finish a certain assignment, then I would call the person who was going to help me, and because it wasn't face to face, which really helped, I recorded it on Zoom. We'd have recorded it, and then I would put it through this software to take what she was saying and transcribe it. And I don't know, it helped to have it in written form, to read it, to break it down, to go over it and over it again before I did my assignment. It was like that. If I had been face to face, I wouldn't have been able to record it, and therefore I wouldn't have been able to go back to it over and over again for the different parts of the assignment, because then the assignment would be, for this one part, 1A, I have to listen to these minutes and then go back to that. And then I broke up the written word into the different aspects of the assignment, like example. But it was really, I was okay. Like, I didn't feel like I was dumb when I realized there was something that was in something with me.
So there was an element of relief, I guess.
Yeah.
That you're like,
really?
Like I'm not the only one.
Because I'm always always coming up with ideas. I have lists of so many things I want to do, things I am, things I want to do. I'm always like doing stuff, right? And I always feel like I'm a little flighty, like, oh, you can't be serious. You're always coming up with new hobbies. And then buying things. And if I can afford, if my budget holds it, I'll buy everything I need for a project, and then I'll get bored in the middle of it. And I feel bad. Oh my God, I wasted money. So other people say, oh, why do you need all of this? And like, why is it your business? You
just get excited, and then
I get excited, but then sometimes I can't finish it.
So there's an impulsivity there that's really classic, isn't it?
And I can't sit still. I mean, I don't even know how I'm sitting still here, but I'm still moving.
You're moving.
We have things like, you bang on the table, and and I have to say, because on the radio you can hear that banging quite a lot through the mic. There's things like this which I've not noticed before until we were in that.
But everyone, if they knew me when I was a kid, I was very quiet. I was quiet, but my mind was racing. And I was always thinking of stuff, and everybody underestimated me, that, oh, she's quiet, she must be dumb.
Because for me it was, as you say, it was through one of my sons who came to me. So by then he was like probably 17, 18. It was a year or two ago, a couple of years ago. And he said, Mom, did you know that impulsiveness, and what did he say, fidgeting, and it was something else, but impulsiveness, particularly in him, was like, is a sign of ADHD? And I was like, no, but what do you think you have, what's going on? So I think I have ADHD, look at this list. And he read me this list, so we can discuss a bit more later in a minute what the sort of symptoms could be, or the manifestation of it, rather. And he read, and I was like, oh, this is a little bit scary, because I was like, I'm like this too? Oh my God, hold on a minute, let's have a look. I was like, and then I found an article that said, this huge amount of women who get diagnosed with, or I don't know if we should use that word, we'll discuss that as well, we'll unpick that, but who discover that they have ADHD because their child has been diagnosed, like you, like me, we're like, oh right, okay, but that's me too. And so they went through life for 30 years, probably around that, 40 years without, as like you, Angela,
just a few years
like,
ago.
I'm weird. No, actually, you're like so many other people, but you never had that sort of recognition or something. So, do you have like at the top of your head, but we can try and find a good list if you want. A list of what are the sort of general manifestations of ADHD?
So if we were to think, I know that you didn't like the word diagnosis, but if we were to think about how it would be diagnosed, there are definitely criteria that has to happen, and as an adult you have to reach. I think it's 5 of those criteria. I think it's more if you're for a child. So things like executive function, how well that works for you, the hyperactivity or inattentiveness, it might be worth to pull them up because I couldn't tell you exactly what they were, because when you're going through the process, and I went through the NHS in the end, you're not asked questions about those specific things. You're asked more lifestyle questions.
So they would put you like in a situation. What would you do if? Is that what you mean?
No. So more things like how. Tell me about your life. What are the things that you struggle with?
Right.
What was your childhood like? So for me, I found that I was a very curious child. If I was in trouble for anything, it was talking. It was not sitting still.
It's one of the signs of
chair.
Talking. I didn't get in trouble for talking.
Yeah, I definitely did get into trouble for talking.
Right. So we have inattentiveness, so difficulty concentrating and focusing. So for instance, short attention span, easily distracted.
Absolutely.
Making careless mistakes in schoolwork. Oh wow.
Yeah.
That was in all my school reports.
Yeah.
You know, good student but inattentive and making stupid mistakes.
Daydreaming would have been mine, you know.
Appearing forgetful or losing things, being unable to stick to tasks that are tedious and time consuming. Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't do dishes.
Think about housework.
Hate dishes. I feel like somebody is torturing me.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's like it's over. I feel the impact physically.
Yes.
I feel it's over. I'm engulfed in that mess.
It's like why? Just do the dishes. Why can't I find relaxation in it like I hear other people do? I find it like a torture chamber.
Tedious. Yeah.
So appearing to be unable to listen to or carry out instructions. Constantly changing activity or task and having difficulty organizing tasks. I mean, obviously, these are kind of, they might be more pronounced in a certain person and less pronounced or completely absent. As you say, everybody's a bit different. Then you have hyperactivity and impulsiveness. So you have, for instance, unable to sit still, especially in calm and quiet surroundings, constantly fidgeting, unable to concentrate on task, excessive physical movement, excessive talking. So that, I think in women, it's more the manifested with a lot of talking, interrupting, isn't it? It's more kind of that, rather than, because I had the idea of ADHD being this like a 4-year-old boy who would be climbing on the sofa and not being able to stop.
Absolutely, and that's why we're trying to move away from the behavioural understanding of it and look at some of those more nuanced.
Yeah, definitely. So what we had, unable to wait for their turn. And there was another thing as well which applies to adults. You can't, I hope no police is going to follow me after that. But
Speeding.
It's very hard to keep to the speed.
Yeah, that's a...
Well, how about me not being able to like, I'm being scared of the test because now my teacher says I'm ready for the test, but the test overwhelms me. Does that have anything to do with it? It's taken me years to learn, and I had to switch to automatic because the manual car, I just couldn't concentrate on all 3 things.
Yeah, that's a lot all at once.
And it took a lot, so I decided to go to automatic even though it's so expensive. I still haven't done the test now due to
circumstances, but still you said that you were told you're ready, but you fear that.
Yeah, I'm not. And I don't know if the fearing of the test is another.
But there's age
thing.
as well. With driving tests, I've always heard that age has a big impact as well.
Yeah.
You take longer to process the
But I
things.
certainly know younger people that have tried to get their driver's license and have ADHD, and it's taken them several goes.
Yeah.
Because of that.
There's other things as well I'm reading here which can explain maybe some parents listening the behavior of their teen children, little or no sense of danger. And
That risk taking, absolutely.
Kind of only realizing after, oh, right, okay, well, maybe not, but that's too late. Interrupting conversations. I cannot wait for people to finish their sentences, and that's just, I know,
I feel like I'm rude.
Terribly rude, but please, it's not that we just think really, really fast.
Yeah. And if you don't say it, you lose it.
Yeah. There's that.
Yeah.
And we have
You heard the radio
husband about
before
that.
this. When I was doing the radio, I forgot. I started talking about it, and then I'm saying, so why did I say that for?
Yeah.
I forgot.
And me, I had gone through my face or glassy-eyed and gone into another word. So both of us were this was a little bit, but we managed. We pulled ourselves back together. Yes. So basically,
that's me, dyspraxia.
It could lead to autism spectrum disorder, depression, sleep problems. My son definitely has that.
I have to eat with a bib. Oh, I feel like I should eat with a bib anyway.
Antisocial behaviors.
Make a mess.
Symptoms in adults. So that's could be interesting as well. Carelessness, lack of attention to detail, difficulty organizing themselves, continually starting new tasks before finishing old ones. That's what you said, Angela. Can't focus, prioritize, forgetfulness, etc., etc. I mean, impatience, extreme impatience. And so, now that we've kind of established what it's about, I have mentioned a little bit that I wasn't sure about two things. Should we talk about a diagnosis, and should we talk about a disorder? Because ADHD means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or hyperactive disorder. What do you think, Maria?
I think diagnosis is important where it's important. So for me, it was because I needed accommodations for my course. I'm also about to go into dissertation writing, so 15,000 words, it's a lot of words for somebody with ADHD to organise, and to, it isn't just about the writing and sitting down and writing, it's all the information that you need to process in order to do something like that. So for me, I felt that it was really important to have a formal diagnosis so I could access the support that I needed and have those accommodations put in place. A bit like the piece that you read out earlier, I realised that when I received my diagnosis, particularly the first time, just how resilient and that I had been across my lifetime, and how many accommodations I put in, and how creative I was about finding workarounds. So whether people need a diagnosis or not is really comes down to their own circumstances. The other thing that really changed for me in having the diagnosis was that I all of a sudden understood myself, and I was able to say, there's this thing that's in my brain that I have no control over. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad adult. When I look around and see what other people can do, and then I feel really bad about not being able to do, it wasn't so much the victim thing that I think that piece brought out. It was more I actually went into self-compassion and self-kindness really heavily, because all of a sudden I had understood that it wasn't about my worth as a person, it was about something in my head that I couldn't control.
I think that's quite interesting, because I'm in fitness, right? So I always look at things under that sort of prism of if we were talking about the body, we would not be as bad as we are and as judgmental as we are when it comes to mental processing, different ways of processing things. So if you had like a hip problem, you'd say, okay, I just have a hip problem, my hip is structured in that way. I've got short legs, I've got long legs, I've got, I'm a bigger person, or I have a body that tends to develop, like I'm a man, I develop a lot of upper body muscles. I'm a woman, I've got stronger legs. We would just accept this without even batting an eyelid. And say, okay, well, you've got to work around something we constantly hear. I say in Pilates and in Taekwondo, work around your body mechanics.
Yeah.
There's certain things you won't be able to do as well as that person or that person because of it. But when it comes to, mental processes, how we approach those things, we are so much more judgmental. Oh, it's a disorder, oh, it's an illness. I didn't really like the fact that in this piece it was the word mental illness was used, because it really has that very heavy weight of like maybe to even need to be medicated or something, and maybe removes a little bit sort of ability to change things.
Yeah, and I think that depends on the individual, and I suspect that why they did use that word is that because for women especially, it can present. Most women with ADHD are often diagnosed with depression well before they find out that they've got ADHD. So there is this comorbidity around depression, anxiety, and unfortunately, suicidal ideation as well. That often these are the eating disorders would be another one. These are the 4 kind of comorbid things around ADHD. So when they talk about mental illness, it isn't so much that it's ADHD make you are mentally ill if you have it. It's the other things that go alongside it. In not knowing what's going on with your body and your mind.
In that case, I fully understand how this could be considered as such. Yeah, of course, because we tend to focus just on the word or the symptoms of it, but we don't really look at. I mean, we, as I said, like the general public, look at necessarily, the impacts on other aspects of people's lives, because you don't understand yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think
you feel
society
like you're inadequate, and
society likes to, anybody with ADHD, I suspect, probably feels very much like a square peg in a round hole because they don't fit in conventional society the way that they're meant to, and so if you don't have a way of externalizing that, then that all goes inward into your worth as a person, and whether you succeed or fail.
So you've decided, obviously, to talk about to research ADHD.
Given that, doing a counselling masters, you have to find a way of bringing counselling into what you're studying. But for me personally, what I found was when I was reading the research about ADHD personally, was that there was so little research on the lived experience of women and girls, more so on girls, a little bit more so on adolescents, and then for our age group, almost nothing at all about what it is like to live with ADHD. So I guess my dissertation is 2 parts, in the sense of it's a heuristic study on my own lived experience, and a heuristic study is quite almost navel gazing in the sense of what is that like, really self-reflective, and then also there would be the wider application of how then would I take that forward in the counselling world, as in working with clients, but also for myself as a counsellor, how will my ADHD inform my work as well. So
So do you happen like sometime when you talk to like an adult or something, and do you think sometime in your head it's like, I wonder whether they have ADHD, because you recognise some traits?
I do now,
and
particularly when I watch television and there's certain personalities on, and I think, oh my goodness, I wonder whether you have ADHD.
Because I do that now. It's quite funny. You're like, well, you can see them. They're like nearly jumping off their seats. They're like, so much going on. I find often actors like in that field, stand-up comedians. Oh my goodness! Because they're able to jump from one idea to another and connect things in weird ways, and they're just like constantly moving.
And it's that outside of the box thinking. In fact, I was doing a seminar the other week with somebody from the ADHD Foundation, and he was telling us that there are certain companies now that are if you have ADHD and autism as well, that you're kind of like top of the pile.
Highly sought after.
Yeah, because of that creative outside of the box thinking. So they're searching for people that what they would call neurodiverse, because they want that diversity in the way that their businesses run, or particularly things to do with engineering. Yeah.
Wow.
So I thought
That's
that was really
excellent
quite
news.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not a mental illness, it's the way your brain operates.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
it's neurodevelopment, so it's about your neurology. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
would it be a good thing if eventually we change from ADHD, as in disorder, in another acronym, another word for?
Yeah, and I think there's two schools of thought on this. So there are the people that have greatly feel that their lives have been affected, and have been in terms of their education, in their ability to hold down a job, potentially addictions and things as well. Yeah. So they would say that their life is far from ordered, and that there is a sense of disorder about their life, and so we have to be very careful that in making things sound kinder and more palatable and more holistic, that we don't negate the very real struggles that people are experiencing on a day-to-day basis, because they do need the support that provides. However, there is this other element to it that there are some really beautiful things about it, and I guess for me, I'm really cautious about the move at the moment to go into everything's a superpower. ADHD is my superpower, because it does negate the very real struggles that people have. And as soon as we start looking at things as being a superpower, and we say, well, your ability to be a creative thinker and think outside the box, and because when you do hyper focus, you're really committed to a task. But they might be strengths for some people, but if these people over here don't have those things, then that's another thing that they're failing at. Now they're failing at not having the superpower of ADHD as well,
so broad, isn't it?
Because it's so broad. So there has to be some balance there, that in removing the sense that people are broken, because we don't want people to feel broken. We want people to understand their unique strengths amidst their difficulties, but nor do we want to pull the rug out from under people that it has greatly impacted their lives and their ability to do things. Yeah, because that wouldn't be kind and compassionate to them either.
Yeah, that's true, and not necessarily very, very helpful in their day-to-day lives on how to, because like everything, a strength can become, can be a weakness, as you said. A weakness when, a strength, it may be in a particular line of work, but when you have to function at home with a family, children, or whether you're a dad or a mom, or whatever circumstances you're in, there's a daily life to deal with where that actually becomes a hindrance. But we could say, on the other side, someone who's super well organized and structured and everything, that also can be a negative point.
Well, people who are like that tend to not be able to deal with people who are not like them, and make other people's lives miserable.
It can become OCD,
because they're constantly they can't let other people just get on with what they're doing, how they're doing it. They're always constant. No, do it like this, do it like this, do it like this. Well, that puts people off, right?
Yeah, exactly. So every
So ever said I don't want to do dishes, so I keep looking for ways to find a dishwasher. My kitchen won't hold a dishwasher.
Angela, seriously, even with a dishwasher, you will still have
I know,
dishes.
but I feel like the dishes will be hidden. It will be in a box. I don't have to see them. Obviously, I just want to have one less thing to do, to worry about. I mean, I've always dreamt of a self-cleaning house. And now I realize why.
I think it's the idea of feeling overwhelmed with simple tasks. That's what I find. I find it so emotionally draining.
Yeah.
And then I get upset with worrying so much about those things that are so mundane that my mind is busy with those things, and I don't use it for other things that I find I personally think are
Absolutely.
more important. Like
Yeah.
talking about this stuff on the radio to me is more important than going home and doing the dishes.
And I
Yeah.
think this is also
And-
the sort of what we know women generally, by and large, we suffer from the mental load aspect of things, where a lot of all of these chores and responsibilities fall on our shoulders naturally, unfortunately, and even if we get
Unnatural.
help in the house, we're the ones organising the tasks for everyone else. So
Yeah.
that could also be an element of
It
that.
also has to do with how I thought as I was growing up, I'm not going to be that woman that does dishes and this, and I want to do more important things, like whatever. I used to read about the first woman doctor, the first woman who voted, the what's her name, the Florence Nightingale. So I wanted to be more like her. But then now when I think about it, these women, they had people working for them. They had time
Yeah.
to do those things because
Florence
they didn't have to
Nightingale.
do menial tasks like we do.
And as far as I know, she was single as well.
Yes, and she was single.
Yeah.
She was. It really helped.
When you have
Yeah.
6 children, or 'cause,
Yes.
you know, you both have 6 children. I have 4. You know, when you have them come in the middle of the
Yeah.
night and decide that it's time for cooking, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
So yeah.
Yeah. I only have 5. Not
5.
quite.
That's
Not
true.
quite
Not
6.
where's the 6? Where's the 6?
Yeah, quite
5.
very close. Yeah, but yeah,
4,
still.
5, and 6. There you go.
But interesting what you say about the dishes. Like for me, my struggle is bathrooms. I just cannot clean a bathroom. I mean, I can obviously,
Yeah.
but that is my point of procrastination. That just the mental overload of having to clean a bathroom, because I find it so tedious. I will procrastinate on that for a week or more until I finally do it, and I will sometimes set myself challenges or find a podcast and try and do it within. I gamify it, which is often a thing that we do with ADHD, and then I do it and I think, why didn't I do that a week ago?
agree.
Like that was so simple.
And I feel
So you have
terrible.
more stress thinking
Yes.
about it,
Yeah.
procrastinating,
Than
than
doing
actually
it.
doing
But
it.
when only when I'm gonna get visitors, I run around
Yes.
very focused. Clean. So when I start cleaning, my kids will say,
Yes.
is
We've got
somebody
people
coming over?
It's the same in our house.
Like, okay, why does the house have to be clean? Only when visitors. Right. So obviously they're right.
Yeah.
Right,
rough,
but
yeah.
I totally admire my son, and I think my daughter too. They clean on the weekend. They're married. They live in their own homes, and the weekend is for cleaning. And I'm thinking, how come I never did that? Like I didn't do that.
So many more interesting things to do on weekends.
But although
I can't.
yeah.
they clean the house and they think it's such a, they just do it. And I'm thinking,
I wish I
how come
had-
I'm not so
yeah.
disorganized? Because I cannot, even now, I cannot do it.
It's interesting
Only
because
when
I
somebody's
can't.
coming over.
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Sorry.
It's only my ADHD. I'm
Yeah.
going to take responsibility. It's not me doing it. But I find that clutter really drains me. So there's the idea of
Yes.
the dishes. That's clutter. I have to force myself really to make it a priority. I'm going to just, that's it. It's the most important task in my life and right now.
But it's just
And I'm
dishes.
going to- I don't want anyone-
And it becomes so important.
We were talking about it earlier. I don't want anyone around me. Please don't come to talk to me. Don't distract me. Don't come and fiddle around me. It's I can't cope with that. On top of doing the dishes, and as you this is when we move on to like coping mechanism. I play something that really distracts my mind.
Oh, please. That's
And
another
then I
distraction.
enjoy- then I
What to listen to?
Oh yeah, it takes ages to
does,
choose.
yes.
Italian music?
Yes.
Yeah, this and then a series, but which series? Because I've started that one, there's that one, that one really looks interesting. Anyway, that's not by the by. When I finally found, but also clutter generally, and I would love to have a house that is like a magazine house.
No, I want a house cleaner. Just leave me
Oh,
alone,
no,
okay?
magazine
I want a
house.
house cleaner.
And when in terms of looking at things that help, I did some ADHD coaching when I first had my diagnosis, just to sort of, understand it really. And that was when they asked me, what are you struggling with? I said, well, it's, in terms of my essays, like I don't feel that I can do it until this is done. And then when I get focused on my essays, like I don't do my housework for 3 weeks because I'm so in that zone of essays. And she said, what would it cost you to have a cleaner come to your house? I said, well, probably about £10 an hour, I think. And she said, well, for £10 an hour to come once a week and do that thing that is causing all of that mental
I'm the kind of, when I think of that,
clutter,
thinking,
yeah.
but I have to clean before she comes. She can't see my house like this.
And there are now cleaners that, will say that they're used to working with people like with ADHD or, that have, because of that very thing, because we need people to come into our homes that aren't judgmental about the things that we're struggling with.
Right? And, so there's always
true.
piles to organize. And
there's ways of mitigating the impact on our lives, and that's that's what we're moving on to now. We like to see, but first of all, where is there a way of getting diagnosis nowadays?
Yeah.
Apart from like your setting, Angela's setting was within a studying setting, but if you're not, say you're a mom, you're working, or you're a dad.
Yeah.
You're out and about, what can you do?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that I was able to just send my thing from the university to my GP, but your GP is often the place that you start. And there are some good online tests. I think initially when I was looking at things, I went to the Attitude website, which is ADD Etude, and they have some good online tests that are gendered. So, particularly because women often do present differently, I think it's important to have a look at that. And you can take something like that to your GP and say, this is what I've experienced, this is what I think's going on. Some GPs may not pay attention to that, and they might say, oh, you're just depressed or you've got anxiety, which is often the case. If you think that it is you, keep pressing it, and if not, you can get diagnosed privately. It's a little bit more pricey, but you have to pay when you don't through the NHS. But so places like Psychiatry UK, or I think ADHD 360, they are both places that the NHS uses for diagnosis in areas where their own waiting lists are so big. But they also offer private diagnosis where you can go.
That would be a good way. Yes, I think that's what my son and I did. We just went online just to, can we tick some boxes, and would we, be positive in that? So that's a good way of starting. Just to, I think, to put some answers to your behavior, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, right, okay, now I understand. And then depending on your situation, isn't it, Angela? If you're in a professional situation where your ADHD impacts you, then it would be good to press to get a diagnosis. And then if it's enough for you to understand yourself, and then now I know I'm just normal for me. I mean,
normal
it's
for
not
you.
exactly. You're not. You as you say, this anxiety or stress or feeling overwhelmed. That's because of this.
Or lazy. That's the other one that gets labelled.
That's a big label that you don't want to be labelled that.
But because it's not that I'm not cleaning my bathroom because I'm lazy, because I'm doing all these other things that show that I'm not lazy. It's but workplaces are becoming, for the most part, far more educated, and so are becoming more likely to put accommodations in place if there's that kind of diagnosis.
And the more we talk about it, the more people will think about it, like our listeners now, thinking, actually, some of the things we read earlier, I could tick some of those boxes, let's have a look. More awareness would remove a lot of stress, I think, from people's lives, just to know that it is actually, like you said, Angela, you're not weird. A lot of people are...
Well, in my community as I was growing up, I grew up around, my family's Greek, and even if they weren't in Greece, they were in their own world. The label of being lazy is so easy, and in those days, like 70s, 60s, 80s, things were different in how you raise kids, and their thing was labeling even more. Now we're trying to move away from labels, and it was a thing, you're going to be called lazy because you're not doing things the way they think it should be done. And frankly, living in the Western world, like in Canada and here, not around my community, kind of freed me because I didn't have to I didn't have them. I wasn't worried they're gonna come over and see the mess, because I thought, well, that's a house that's looks like it's lived in. That's how I labeled it. Plus, we were homeschoolers.
Yes.
Whereas your house is like a magazine style, and I just cannot make it like that. I can't. Even though I know what I like, and when I clean it will look really good, but I can't keep it up.
No.
And there's also, other external factors, like, when you have a big family, inevitably people living around you will make, it's just like, will make a mess and leave their own things behind, and etc. So you've got also to be kind of, okay, well, this is a stage in my life. I've got the children still in the house, and I think I've got less control.
But
over my
a lot
environment.
of domestic work is tedious, and it's not a kind of job that you finish and it's done.
No, it's a perpetual renewal.
They actually there's a book I got. I can't remember the title, and it's very old, from Canada. But somebody did like a PhD or something study on that kind of work. They have a name for this kind of work.
Perpetual renewal.
Yeah, there's a word, I can't remember all the word, but basically they studied how it affects you to keep doing that kind of work over and over again.
I gave an example to my husband about that. I said, imagine you develop a software. You're a software developer. You develop a software for your client, and you meet them every morning. This is what I've worked on, and they look at it, they use it a bit. By midday they say, that's it, I've used it. They've messed it up completely. So basically by the evening you've got to start from scratch. You can delete the whole thing and restart. The day after you go back to your client, and so on and so forth, every single day.
It's Groundhog Day.
Yes. And I said, how would you feel?
Yeah.
How would you feel? This is how I feel when I enter the kitchen. I have just tidied up. Or it could be I've just made the children tidy up, do their chore in the kitchen, do their wash. It's not just about you doing it. It's I have just finished the mental stress of making sure the kitchen is tidy, so we can have a second day where we can, next day where we can eat, and etc. And no on and so on, and it's really, and ironings. I've just kind of
I gave that up when I started home.
Forget ironing.
I still have a few things that I just can't avoid. So I give the children. I've priced now items, and they do the ironing.
No, I found a machine. I've seen a machine that you put your clothes in, and it irons it and it hangs it up. And if I could get that, I'm all into getting some kind of a machine to do an activity.
I'm with you. But I have one of those robot vacuum cleaners that
how cool!
And I don't use it. I forget to put it on.
It's like ADHD. I've got all the tools I need, but I forget to use them.
Yeah, well, I don't want to use it because it's gonna make a mess, and then I have to clean it.
Yeah. So that blindness, with ADHD, time blindness, that not knowing. Yeah, that time blindness, but also when things are out of sight, there's like a blindness around that as well. That if you forget that it's there, then I don't know whether you open your cupboards and find you've got six
and that's
of the
why
same items.
on my desk everything is out. And they say, well, why is everything out? Because if I don't see the magnesium, and if I don't see vitamin C, and if I don't see vitamin D, I will totally forget it completely. Like, it's not there, and then I end up not taking my vitamins.
So an advice so now we can move on to coping mechanism. And one advice when we talk about this thing is, if you have a pet, make sure it's a pet that makes a noise.
Yes, at feeding time. Yes.
So I have a hamster, and he's like kind of in a kind of a little attic room, tucked away. But I can hear him in the evening when I go up the stairs near my bedroom. He's on his wheels, like, feeding time.
Yes.
But my son has a snake. And to keep her warm, he covers her with blankets, so that there's no drafts and things. And he has said that when he got diagnosed, he kind of did the test, and it's like, I have ADHD. So one of the things is that I have to make sure I can see my snake, because I just forget she's there.
Yeah.
So every morning I make him like lift that blanket to make sure. He walks past her to make sure she's got the water and the humidity and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I definitely forget that things are.
I would not want pants for that very reason. Add more work.
That's
mundane work like I hate mundane work, and I'm stuck already with so much of it.
You're right.
But I don't want to do more for myself.
So cats are really good because they just need feeding, and the rest they do it themselves. They go in and out of the house,
They
do their
do.
business.
Yeah,
But,
pretty good like that.
So other coping mechanism, Maria? Give
Well,
us-
like I've for years I've been in trouble with my family because they've wanted me to convert to like online calendars. You know, everybody put their things in Google Calendar and we'll all know what everybody else is doing. And for years I refused to do it because it just did not work. Again, if I can't see it, it's out of mind. And I've been fighting them tooth and nail to have a diary that I write in and a calendar on my fridge. And they keep poo-pooing me and saying, no, Ma, come into the modern age. I read an article the other day about ADHD, and what did it say? You need concrete things to have in front of you. Have your diary, have your calendar on the fridge, so that they are front and centre of where you need them when you need them.
I have that, definitely. The calendar on the sort of the timetable for the week, for the year or whatever, with all of everybody's activities on my fridge. Lists, I still do them on like shopping lists and things that remind, like important reminders. But what I find, I love gadgets and I love but it's true, you do not see unless you go to that particular app. So on my screen I have like the big app with my list of tasks, but I found even a better way. Instead of having lots of tasks all over the place for this, for that, I have like tasks for today, and I open this and it's got like the list, and I tick them off, and if I've not finished I move them to today, and I have a reminder for that day. And another thing I found absolutely that has revolutionized, whatever a word is, my day is having speaking alarms.
Oh, alarms. I set timers for everything. Yeah.
So I have about, 10-15 alarms for the week. Obviously not regular things like coming to the to the radio show. That's it. I know.
Did you have them when you were working? Did you start those kind of alarms in work?
No, in my house. Because work is a bit different. You're in the setting where you sit at your desk, you turn your computer on, and you've got that focus. You don't have distractions. We see it when we come here, Angela, don't we? When we come to the studio, or even in this building, the only thing we have to think about is why we meet for. But if we're at home, so many other things, and you forget the time. Again, the time issue. What time? I'm always late, Angela. I'm tired. That's another thing.
And even though you
I drive and I'm closer than you. I'm late.
And she comes late.
Yeah, well,
but
that's
speaking
really
alarm for me has really been a revolution in my I tend to not forget, because you can have alarms on your phone standard. But you don't remember what they're for.
See, I put mine on with I can write and what I want. So if I had an alarm to come here today, and it said radio. So
but mine speaks. So I just
good.
hear it. It rings and it says, "It's time for," I don't know.
Wow.
Blah, blah, blah.
Alexa has been another one. You know, I can put my washing machine on and say, Alexa, set a timer for the washing machine, and then I don't forget
Really, that would be a reason to get
it.
Alexa.
Alexa, set a timer for this, so that I remember to go back to it. So,
I've burned so many things because I can't stand to wait for the amount of time so I make myself go, I'll remember, I'll come back. No, next thing you know, oh my god, I forgot the food. Didn't anybody smell this? Why is it only me?
I was stood in the kitchen last night watching croutons in my oven, and I still burnt them. So I should have said Alexa.
So there you go. Maybe alarms for you. Well, this concludes our show. We could go on for another, hour or two probably. We would love to have you back maybe in a little while when you've progressed or finished your dissertation. Sure. We'd lovely to hear your findings and maybe more advice as well. Angela, do you anything to conclude?
No, I'm grateful that you came and you met another fellow with ADHD, and you realize you're just wired differently. There's nothing wrong with you.
Exactly.
And I think
whatever problems happen is from not accepting yourself.
There's a lot of stigma attached to some of these things, and I just think that the more kindness we can show to ourselves, and the more compassion and that self-understanding that we're not broken. There is something in our wiring that might be a little bit different from the norm, but we're not broken. And really, really practice that kindness and compassion. Yeah.
Very wise words to
Do
finish
they
off
have
on.
only one thing? Is there a club where ADHD drivers converge and talk about how they learn how to drive?
There's plenty of online communities.
I'd love to find one.
Yeah, ADHD UK on Facebook. I think there's a women's only group actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
You're
I was
absolute-
just being cheeky when I asked. I didn't really believe
I'm
that
sure
there would
there
be
are.
such a
There would
thing.
There are, and TikTok, as you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Maria, for
Thank you.
coming. It was really fascinating discussion. I hope you all enjoyed it. And
I did.
yeah, definitely. We had a good laugh, so we like that as well. So inshallah, we'll come back next week for another show of the Wellness Show with Angela and Sophia on Heritage Radio 90.6 FM. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.